My name's Will Maynor. I'm an associate director of MEP at Microdesk. I've been with the organization for about 15 years, doing training, tech support, implementation services, largely for Autodesk software. And for Microdesk, if you don't know who we are, we're an AECO technology consulting firm. So we handle software in the architecture, engineering, construction, and operation industry. We were established in 1994. We've got 13 locations in the United States and the United Kingdom. We staff 300 professionals, with over 330 of us being AECO consulting specialists and software developers, all of whom come from the industry. We support all sectors, all disciplines, and all stages of the building life cycle. So that includes analysis, architectural design, infrastructure, structural, MEP engineering, right to construction management. And we even have a team of 30 detailers who make up essentially all of the building trades, from sheet metal fabrication to plumbers to pipe fitters to electrical contractors. And then finally, on the owner operator side, we've got an entire department of asset managers who can take these BIM models that we're developing and integrate them into the owner's work order management software, or develop, the new thing in the industry now is the, it's no longer the 6D model, it's the digital twin. We can take these building models that you're developing during design and during construction, and we can real-time link them to building sensors and IoT devices so that owners can get a web-based dashboard where they can interact with all of the temperature sensors and Lutron lighting controls and pitot tubes on your HVAC systems. We're industry-leading partners. We're an Autodesk Platinum partner, an IBM Silver business partner. We partner with Panzura, Esri, Eagle Point. And we say this a lot, we're an Autodesk Platinum partner, we're a Silver partner. What does that mean? It means that we qualify for a lot of, how would I say this, tests or qualifications within Autodesk. We have to demonstrate that we're staffed up to support all of their software, and we have to demonstrate that we are proficient in the software so that we can serve the customers and we can support them with the Autodesk software. And in exchange for that proof, Autodesk gives us access to promotions that aren't necessarily available to folks out on the street. And what that means is that if you are not currently an Autodesk, or rather a Microdesk partner or a Microdesk client, I'd recommend talking to one of our salespeople, because just like if you're buying auto insurance, you're going to get a better rate talking to an agent than you would going on to Geico's website and filling out a form. So the same thing is true with Autodesk software. Being a Platinum partner gives us access to promotions that may not be available to an Amazon or to a CDW. Okay. Microdesk, as a solution specialist, and just to go back to something that I said early on, our bread and butter has always been in training, tech support, implementation, digital transformation for our clients. And through that process, over the past 20 years, our internal application developers have taken many of the solutions that we've developed and productized them. And many of those solutions have coalesced onto what we describe here as BIMrx, what we've branded as BIMrx. And BIMrx comes in several different baskets. We've got core tools which focus on documentation and on project setup. We've got the BIMrx Cloud Manager, so that if you're working with BIM 360 and you've got large Revit projects with multiple folders and subfolders that you need to synchronize onto the cloud, BIMrx Cloud Manager will help out with that. We've got BIMrx for fabrication. These are productivity tools that are going to help our contractors quickly detail and fabricate their models. And largely what we're going to talk about today, the BIMrx MEP spoke of the BIMrx product suite. Okay, and then just for your benefit, we've got other options available. We've got other tools available as well. So we talked about the owner operator space. Microdesk has a tool that integrates IBM Maximo for work order management. with the BIM model, and we call that tool model stream, so that owners can take those models that you've developed in design, scrub the assets, use the real-time location codes from that model, and generate all of the asset records inside of their work order management. And then ARID, we have our application developers in the asset management team are working with IBM's Watson, so artificial intelligence, in order to intelligently identify the objects inside of your smart BIM models, and then assign the relevant parameters that your owners or operators are looking to track. Okay, and of course, without further ado, I think I'd like to get in the name of the game today. The webinar is Tips and Tricks with BIMrx, and I'd like to get into some of the picks and clicks. So primarily today, I'm going to be talking about BIMrx MEP, which is a ribbon bar that contains a lot of, it contains all of our modeling efficiency tools. These are the tools we've developed to automate a lot of low-level modeling tasks so that you can focus on sort of the intelligent work that you need to be doing, the engineering, the coordination, the value engineering. And this comes from the fact that we do a lot of project management in-house as well. And the types of projects that we win, I keep coming back to owners and operators. We'll take subcontractors' shop drawings, which are done in AutoCAD format. We'll remodel them inside of Revit so that owners have operational tools for generating those asset records, creating life safety drawings for regulatory compliance, or other operational tasks. And that modeling work that we do is very low level. We're not engineering like you are, we're not designing like you are, and we're not detailing like you are. We're taking work that's already been done and we're just converting it. And when we watch our designers, we notice that there's a lot of work they do. There's a lot of button clicks they click on that simply don't put work on paper. They don't get the job done any faster. And when we watch those same designers work in an AutoCAD environment, they've got a workflow that's extremely efficient. And I want you all to think about the AutoCAD power user. If you've ever seen them before, it's amazing to watch. They're typing commands on their keyboard with their left hand. They're clicking with their right hand. They're copying and pasting and reusing work that's on the screen. And that's really what BIMrx tries to accomplish. We want to recreate the efficiency and speed of the AutoCAD power user inside of Revit, all while not reinventing the wheel. We want to highlight what Revit does well, and we want to fill in some minor gaps. And I'm going to demonstrate a couple examples with plumbing, electrical conduit, mechanical. All of what we see today, they work conduit, cable, pipe, and examples that well for me in the past. They've heard a lot of it. They've on challenges you have. So I wanted to model sand. Okay. Just power you, I'm going to heavily rely on keyboard shortcuts. Okay. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. Draw some sanitary pipe. And in this case, I think I'm starting from the bottom down. We've got an eject pit where I'm just going to pinpoint. And I think I'm not going to go very far. I'm just going to put like an elbow in. I think the less button clicking I can do, the better. The pipe that I drew doesn't have the right system, so let me fix that. And I think we're a plumbing sanitary system. And I just want to make sure that the offset of this pipe puts me, I'm drawing some below ground pipe. So let's bring this down to something like -3 feet. Okay. So I didn't draw very much. And what I'm going to do is use an out of the box workflow where I can take the elbow that I drew and turn that into a T. Now BIMrx has a command called bloom. And you can see here I've assigned it to a keyboard shortcut. So I can type my keyboard shortcut, and the bloom command is going to extend duct pipe out of every open connection that the fitting or the mechanical equipment or the plumbing fixture has. And furthermore, if the pipe that I drew had a slope on it already, then when I converted the elbow to a T, the connector on the T had a slope, and the pipe that extends out is naturally going to have a slope as well. And now I'm saying to myself, if this pipe needs to connect, maybe I've got a floor clean out that I want to attach to, then I can start using commands to quickly draw pipe in different directions. So BIMrx has an elbow up command, and I'm going to type the keyboard shortcut to draw elbow up. And what it does is it simply draws a vertical piece of pipe attached to my horizontal run, and it connects the two with an elbow without breaking the slope. Okay. Just so I can put a vertical rise in. And now I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so we can see what happens. BIMrx has a command called move and connect, which allows me to click on an object that's in the right place, one that has an MEP connector. And I can click on an object that I want to move to it, in this case, the vertical pipe. And it stretches the vertical pipe to attach to the clean out. It moves that horizontal run all the while without breaking the slope. Okay. And the same is true for the pipe that's downstream of the T, and the same is true for that sort of branch line that I drew earlier. And in that regard, I can do the same thing if I've got another clean out that I need to connect to. Once again, I can use my elbow up command, and I can use my move connect command assigned to a keyboard shortcut. I click on the clean out, and I click on the vertical pipe, and then it moves the second thing to the first. And you can actually see if I were to undo that and redo it on the floor plan, you notice how it's not affecting the main. We're really minimizing the effect. So I'm going to keep demonstrating this because this is something that we focused heavily on, was ensuring that nothing we do is going to be destructive to the slopes that we draw. And now, if we needed to draw a branch line to a floor drain, we can use the same bloom command that I showed you a second ago. I'm typing my keyboard shortcut on the keyboard. I click the floor drain, and it extends pipe coming out the bottom. If I want to place a pipe fitting, in this case, I want to put a P-trap in, I'm going to use my pipe fitting keyboard shortcut, and I'm going to place the P-trap nearby. The move and connect command is going to take the two closest connectors. So I just have to ensure that the closest connectors are the ones that logically make sense, right? I want to make sure that the top is the closest to the drop. And now in this case, we used the move and connect command earlier to move two things that are already parallel to one another. But if I want to rotate an object, BIMrx has a command called move, connect, and align. And that allows me to click on an object with an MEP connector that's in the right place. And the second object I click on is going to get rotated and connected to the first. And just to explain what's going on, I'm using solid color fills to indicate the system that I'm connecting to. So you notice, if I were to undo that, the P-trap I initially placed didn't have a system on it. If I redo that, it inherits the blue color of whatever system that is. I'm not sure if it's rainwater leader. The bloom command couldn't infer the system from the floor drain, but that's okay because we're going to correct that very easily in just a couple minutes. Now I need to rotate the floor drain, and Revit does have a widget for doing that, but we've always found that this is a very frustrating tool to work with. If my view were rotated in such a way, it wouldn't necessarily be apparent where that widget is. And the busier my screen is, the harder it is to see and click on. So BIMrx has a command called rotate fitting. And we're up here like this. If I click on the rotate fitting command and I click on the P-trap, Revit's going to give me standard off-the-shelf angles for typical pipe elbows. So you'll see we have 90 degrees for a quarter bend, 45 for an eighth, 22.5 for a 16th bend, and so on. I mentioned earlier that the commands work for both pipe and for conduit and for duct. So for that reason, we have a couple of angles that make more sense for conduit, though it doesn't really seem appropriate for pipe. We've got the 30 and the 60 degree. In this case, I want to rotate 90, so I'm going to click on the 90 option. And now, once again, I want to start thinking like the AutoCAD power user, right? If I've got tools that can move and connect, then that gives me a lot of freedom to start reusing work. And this for me was the biggest drag on Revit, was that if we have to make connections, it's very difficult simply to copy and paste something, right? Like we always had more difficulty making a connection than drawing things from scratch. But now that those connections are so easy, what I could do is I could come in and I could select something that's in the right place. I'm just going to verify in 3D that I've got everything I need selected. going to come on my floor plan and we'll just do something like that. I guess I don't really need the P-trap. Okay, I can copy it. And now, with everything selected, I'm going to run the move and connect command again. So I type the keyboard shortcut. I click on the thing that's in the right place, and I click on the thing I want to move to it. In this case, it was the vent tee. And now you can see that it looked like the Bloom command earlier selected the system. It guessed the system wrong. Green here is this indicator of my sanitary system, but that's okay because BIMrx has a command called move and connect. I'm sorry, it's got a command called delete system. And delete system looks like this. You can see I've assigned it to a keyboard shortcut DS. I'm going to use the DS command, and I'm going to click on the pipe that's on the wrong system. It voids the system, and now the sanitary fills in the void. And now for me, the final step, the final difficulty that I have with Revit is that with sloped piping especially, the branch line would have to connect into the main at a very specific coordinate in 3D space. And Revit's extend command, if I were to go to the modify tab of the ribbon, there's an extend command that looks like this. Out of the box, Revit doesn't assign that to a keyboard shortcut. So what I did was I went to the keyboard shortcut dialog box. And of course, there's a keyboard shortcut for that. KS, Kilo Sierra, takes me to the keyboard shortcut dialog. And what I did was I just searched for the command extend, and I entered EX in there. So I selected it and typed EX and clicked the assign button. Okay. In that same regard, I've done the same thing for many of the BIMrx commands. So for BIMrx MEP, this is where I assigned EU to elbow up, and ED to elbow down, and EL to elbow left, and so on. I'm just going to hit the OK button. And with the extend command, if I was going to click on the main and click on the branch, Revit's not even going to allow me to do that in a 3D isometric view because the two aren't aligned. I could go back to my floor plan and do the same thing. I can click on the run and I can click on the branch. But now this is that point where typically Revit will start giving you a warning message about not enough room to place the required fittings, or no auto route solution was found, and that's because the two don't perfectly align. So at this point, we watch our detailers cutting sections, opening up views, adjusting visibility graphic overrides, and just spending minutes and minutes of time doing work that doesn't put work on paper. In other words, my only goal here is to put a combination Y in to connect the run with the branch. It's not to cut a section. It's not to adjust visibility graphic overrides. And when we watch our designers do that, they'll spend 6 to 10 minutes adjusting sections every time they need to create a new one. So we look at that and say to ourselves, well, if there's 30 floor drains we need to connect inside of this MER, and we're spending 6 minutes per floor drain, that's 180 minutes just connecting branches to mains. That's 3 hours. And if we can eliminate that with a button click, then that gives our clients and that gives our detailers a competitive advantage and an ROI. So BIMrx MEP has a command called align branch. And align branch allows me to click on the main and click on the branch. And all it does is it simply adjusts the branch to the main. And here it looks like there might have been a broken connection. I'll heal that in just a second. Now I can use Revit's extend command, just the out of the box command, and it puts that combination Y in for me. Okay, finally, with this broken connection, I already know the keyboard shortcut to heal that. That's for move and connect. I click on the thing that's in the right place and the thing that I want to attach to, and it moves the second thing to the first. Of course, if we wanted to continue this vent line, I can always use the elbow up command to extend the that vent line up. And then, of course, if I needed to connect this in, what I could do is I could go up to another run. Maybe I'm going to use a rotate fitting command to rotate this elbow 45. If the command went in the wrong direction, no problem. I just hit the enter key as previous command. I click on the elbow, and we're going to rotate it in the opposite direction twice as much. If 45 went in the wrong direction, -90 will set it right. Then I can use Bloom, and then You remember that branch align command that I used earlier to connect the branch in with the run? It doesn't only work on the XY plane, it works with any two pipes that are not parallel in any sort of coordinate plane. So if I use the branch align command, this time my vent over here is in the right place, and this time that vertical needs to adjust to trim to it. Now I can use the trim command and I can connect those two in very easily without having to align the two. Okay, so that branch align command is what's going to allow me to quickly ensure that two pipes can trim or extend into one another without me having to switch views or without me having to cut sections. I'm going to use the extend command. Hopefully I got enough space to put the T in. It tells me there wasn't enough room, so why don't I just take this out? I'm going to stretch it. We're going to extend. And now I can delete the pipe. Oh. I think you can see there it was putting in a combination Y, where really these should just be sanitary T's, I guess. So we're going to go sanitary T. I'm going to extend those two in together, and then I'm going to use the move and connect command to connect that elbow in the pipe. Now in this case, it looks like something prevented that T from getting pinned. In other words, I really expected the move connect command to stretch this pipe back. And maybe the reason is there simply wasn't enough room to. So why don't I delete the pipe? I'm going to use the move and connect command again, and I'm going to grab that coupling and I'm going to grab the elbow, and I think that's a better solution. Okay. Once again, I can use the align branch command to align my branch to the main, and sometimes you can see here I might have had a small length of pipe connecting the vent T to that elbow, in which case Revit needs to delete it. It would have doubled back on top of itself. But that's not a problem because we've got tools to fix that very simply. I'm going to use move and connect command to click on the vent T and click on the elbow. And we'll try that one more time. I think I used the wrong keyboard shortcut, so I got an unlikely error. If I use the proper keyboard shortcut, the elbow connects to the vent T. And here, as I tab through, you can see here's the reason for the broken connection that we had before. Once again, I'm going to connect these two guys together. And now if I tap through, everything's connected. I am not sure if I'm going to have enough space to put the T in here. So what I might just do is, like I did before, I'll stretch these two out, extend together, and there, the move and connect command, as long as there was enough space, it stretched the pipe back, assuming that that T was pinned in place. And you'll also notice when it stretched it back, it preserved the slope again. So I'm going to keep clicking on these pipes to verify that all of my slopes are preserved. So now that we've got these tools that align, trim, and extend, now we can start really thinking like the AutoCAD power user. And I can think like somebody who's going to build out assemblies and reuse them so I don't have to redraw them every time. In other words, if I can save 6 minutes per floor drain, that's great. But if I could save 10 minutes per floor drain, that's even better. So why don't I take this assembly and make it into an official assembly, a Revit assembly. And we can create a floor drain type. The assemblies are going to live inside my project browser. So I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And I can drag and drop that assembly onto the screen. And I can place multiple instances of it. Okay. Now, of course, we would have an architectural background where these should line up to, right? But in this case, I'm kind of winging it here. I'm going to rotate 90 degrees. I'm going to disassemble it. I'm going to use the branch align command to pick the run with the branch. I'm going to use the extend command to connect them in with a combination Y. And we can do that for every one of those. So anything that we can build out as an assembly and reuse, we now have tools that will allow us to align and connect them with just a few button clicks. And now in this case, maybe we did something that wasn't up to code. If I were to select that vertical drop, I can see what's its length here. It's a little bit too long, so maybe we need to shorten that up. Say we needed a different configuration here, something a little bit more complicated. Maybe what I can do is I can delete the T out, and then to heal the two pipes together, I'm going to use my trim command, and maybe we need to bring this up higher. We'll bring this up to like -1 maybe. Hopefully that gives me enough space. We'll test this out. And then say I needed to come in the top, I could use my elbow down command to put a drop in. I use my branch align command to make sure that it's aligned. And I use my extend command to connect it in with the combination Y. And then once again, I just double check the pipe and verify that the slopes are still intact, and they both are, and I'm pretty happy in this case. But let me undo that, because maybe we didn't want a combination Y. Maybe we actually wanted a Y itself. So what I might do is delete the pipe from the drop, and I'm going to use the rotate fitting command to put this at a 45-degree angle. Once again, if it goes in the wrong direction, no worries. I'm just going to hit the enter key again. I'm going to go -90 in the opposite direction. I'll use the bloom command from BIMrx to extend pipe out the end. I'll use the branch align once again just to make sure that they're lined up properly. And then I'm going to grab my two pipe types and make sure that they've got a routing preference that's going to insert Ys and not combination Ys. Then finally, I can use the extend command to connect them two into, and in that way, we can very simply connect a branch line to a main using Ys. Okay. So let's switch gears for a second, and I want to show how these tools would work together to do some mechanical piping. And here I've got a couple heat exchangers we can connect into. We have to connect into some mains. And I think just like before with the floor drain, I would start by using the bloom command to give me something to bite onto. And in this example, you can see that the pipe comes in with the wrong system. It looks, I think the red color is telling me that it's a heating hot water. So I'm not worried because we're going to delete those systems in just a second. If I wanted to, though, the delete system command from BIMrx that I showed you earlier would allow me to click on a mechanical equipment with multiple systems on it, and it would delete all of them. So that's a quick way to flesh them out. But once I start using those elbow commands, it's going to once again try to guess the system, and it's probably not going to get it right. So that's okay. We're going to wait until we make the final connection before we get the system. Now, having said that, if we did have the system right, then the elbow commands would pick the correct system. But it's just because now we're starting at the mechanical equipment, and the tools can't predict what systems you might have in your database and which ones are appropriate for which type of connector. And we also don't want you spending a lot of time fixing your content library to work with our tools. Sometimes we just like the tools being simple and dare I say, like dumb. So in this case, we've got a couple options for things we can do. I can use my elbow up command to draw pipe going up. And now the elbow right command, if I run it on the top of vertical pipe, it's going to look at the pipe underneath it. And it's going to assume that I'm looking towards the end of the pipe that I'm clicking on. So in this case, right is this direction, left would be in this direction. So I click on elbow right. Okay. I'm going to take the pipe that I drew, and maybe I'm going to rotate this down at 45 degrees. I can use my branch align command that we were using earlier, and I can use the extend command, whoops, to connect these two in together. And now finally, once I've got the pipe in the right place, now I can use the delete system command to make that go away. And then if we wanted to, on the same token, I could use an elbow up command. And now, once again, elbow right is going to assume that I'm looking down the shaft of the, like when I'm clicking on a vertical pipe, it's going to assume I'm looking down the shaft of the pipe that's attached adjacent to it. Okay, I choose elbow right. And now we did have that trick earlier where you saw I dragged the connector to a 45-degree angle. But we could use BIMrx tools as an alternative. I could delete the pipe that's horizontal. I could use the rotate fitting command to rotate this 45. I can use the bloom command. I can use the align branch command. and I can use Revit's extend command to cut those in. Then finally, delete system is going to make the system type go away. Now I realize here I'm oversimplifying a little bit. In this case, we want to go elbow up. And here, this might be a little bit tricky. I'm going to use an elbow right again. It actually does what I want. Then I'm going to go elbow up. And then if this is my condenser water, maybe what I'm going to do is use the branch line and the extend. And then I can delete system to make those two go away. Okay. Now finally, like this was a very simple system. You know, of course I can come in and I can make adjustments. We might want to bring this up to 7 feet. Maybe I want the elbow to connect directly to the reversing valve on the heat exchanger. So I'm going to use the move and connect command to attach the second object to the first. If we wanted valves, I can use my pipe accessory command. And let's see if we've got some, maybe we've got some butterfly valves in here. All right, yeah. And if we're talking about chilled water, I could put in a, what size are we talking about? 10 inches? Let's make this a 10-inch valve. And I've got a special valve here that I could put flanges on it if I wanted to. And now we've got some ability to, you know, I showed you that move and connect command or the move, connect, and align command. Well, BIMrx has a command called split with gap that if I wanted this valve in the middle of this vertical, split with gap allows me to click on 2 places on the pipe and it's going to create a gap. Then I can use the move, connect, and align command to click on either one of those 2 pipes, and then it rotates the valve and attaches it to the second. Okay. Now, of course, if I was going to create similar, Revit does give me the ability to snap a valve into an existing pipe. And in many cases, that works really well. But if you've worked with Revit for a long time, you also know there's a lot of situations where we get into a large model in a 3D view and it becomes very difficult to ensure that the valve snaps to the correct pipe. So what I'm demonstrating is simply an alternative workflow that gives you a little bit more reliability. And now finally, what I can do is I can use the move and connect command. I click on the valve and I click on the pipe. It stretches the pipe in this case in order to heal the gap. And it's even possible too, oftentimes the valve is going to attach directly to an elbow, so I can do something like that. And now we even have freedom, we can use the rotate fitting command if we wanted to rotate this at 45, okay? So have you ever drawn, like if I'm talking to HVAC designers, have you ever drawn a PRV station and you put in a whole bunch of really large OS and Y valves and you want them rotated out at a 30 or a 45-degree angle for coordination? So that rotate fitting command is an easy way to do that without using Revit's out-of-the-box command. Okay. So the commands work with HVAC pipe as well as they work with plumbing pipe, but they also work with electrical conduit as well. So if we were inside of an electrical model, once again, I'm thinking in terms of the AutoCAD power user, and I'm trying to reduce the number of button clicks. So for that reason, one of my favorite commands in out-of-the-box Revit is the create similar command. In other words, if I was going to use the conduit command, I would have to run the command, specify an offset. I'd have to pick the routing preference for the pipe or the conduit type, and then I'd have to potentially set the diameter. And for pipe, I'd have to set the system. Revit's create similar command has a keyboard shortcut CS or Charlie Sierra. I select something that I like. I run the command, and now it populates everything with the right types for me. Maybe in this case, I'd like it to be a little bit smaller in diameter, so I'm going to draw 2-inch. And I'm just going to draw a short length of pipe and follow that up with Revit's offset command, which allows me to come in and I can say, I would like to space the conduits on my rack 4 inches apart. And then I can just run down the rack and do something like that. Okay. Maybe I'm going to move these so they attach to, I just want them, you know, aligned to the pull box. And then I can use Revit's copy command. Revit's rotate command to rotate this 90, and then say I wanted my whole rack to make a 90-degree bend, and maybe I actually want to, like, we're coordinating around something, so we want to bend our elbows down maybe at a 30-degree angle, and then the offset of this rack could be much lower. Maybe I'll bring it down to 7 feet. So I could, on a floor plan, use the trim command, and Revit would attempt to put elbows in and connect them with a vertical drop. But that's, of course, not what I want. So BIMrx has a command that's specific to conduit, and it's called roll into conduit. The command allows me to click on a conduit at one elevation, and then a conduit at a different offset, but perpendicular, just like that. And I can specify the angle that I'd like. In this case, I could say 30 degrees, or since we can bend conduit in any angle we want, I could come in and I could say I'd like to roll this in at 15. I think for me, I think 30 degrees makes sense. So let me do that. And what the command does is it places a 90-degree elbow at the conduit I clicked on first, and then the 30-degree angle that I picked at the one I clicked on second. So I can run the command again, click, click, OK, enter as previous command. So just like that, I can run through the rack, and I can put all the I can basically put all those rolls in. If I was to undo that, the command could run in the opposite direction, where if I clicked on the bottom first and the top, you can see how the two vary. Okay, so whichever way we would like the conduit to roll, both options are available to me. Okay. Maybe this is too far down, so let me select this, and I'm going to bring this up at something like 9'8". And I'm going to use the command again. I click on the top and I click on the bottom, and we're going to choose 30 degrees. And sometimes this is going to happen, right? If there's not enough room between the two conduit elbows to draw the conduit, Revit, of course, can't draw it in there. So it's going to tell me it needs to delete the element. But nevertheless, the command still puts the elbows in. And what that allows me to do now is I can use Revit's or BIMrx's move and connect command, and I can click on the two conduit, and it moves the second one to the first. So if I was to tab select the two conduits, here I can ensure that they're both connected. So once again, I can roll into conduit, I can click 30, I ignore the warning message, and then I move and connect the gap there. Otherwise, like I said, we talk about these things as being assemblies, so we could always maybe take advantage of copying and pasting. But I think maybe that's enough, and we might move on a little bit. If we were to take one of these runs and stretch it out, okay? Eventually, we might need to connect into, maybe there's a junction box that we want to attach to. And there's some vertical drops in here. It looks like 2.5 is the right size after all. So I'm going to use Revit's match properties to correct that. Okay. And now with conduit, I'm just going to draw some coming out at some slight angle. And the crux for me, once again, if I need to trim these two together, Revit's not going to allow me to do it because the two are not aligned. So I use my branch align light command that we've seen both for plumbing and mechanical. Then I can use the trim command and the two are perfectly aligned. If I wanted to take this, and once again, we can offset it. Maybe this time we're going to offset something like 8 inches. We can put 4 in here. We may need to rotate these. Whoops. We may need to rotate them a little bit, right, in order to get everything to fit. But I can use my branch align to align and trim. Branch align, whoops, branch align to align and trim. Branch align to align and trim. And then at that point, I can trim that conduit to that. Now, of course, the diameter probably has to match. So Let me just delete those guys real quick. I'm going to use the match properties again because these should have all been 2.5 inches. I'm going to use my trim command to connect those two. I guess I can't do it view to view. I was hoping I'd be able to do that very easily. There we go. This one might throw an error because I may not have enough space. So in this case, I might just have to rotate it down to a more slight angle. And then I would be able to trim those together, I think. Oh, maybe we're not at the right offset. So I'm going to use the branch align to realign those two and then trim them together, and they fit together pretty nicely. Well, my angles are a little off, so I'd have to spend some more time. Looks like somewhere we got a junction box, and those usually come in because there's a size mismatch. But can we fix that? Yeah, maybe we can. If I were to use my move and connect command, connect those two guys together, the angle's not going to work. I'll tell you what, let's delete the elbow. I'm going to use my move, connect, and align command, and then I'm going to use my trim command. Okay, so of course there's overlap there. It doesn't look too great, but I think we're doing pretty good. Now, with the commands, like we also have commands, there's other ways we could do this, right? We're going to switch all these to 2.5. And we could also use the commands that I've showed you already. We had the elbow left command, for example. We do something like that. I can delete the conduit coming out the branch. I can use the rotate fitting command to rotate this at 40 or 30 degrees. Okay, and then I can use the bloom command. Okay. What you're looking at right now is essentially a beta version of the new release of BIMrx that will be coming out sometime within the next 6 weeks, I believe. I can't promise that, but very shortly. This is going to be the late summer release. And the new release has a command called elbow settings, which if I click on it, these are the options which help me define what the length is for all of the blooms and the elbow commands. So here you can see my default bloom length is 3 feet for pipe and conduit. If I were to set that to, 5 inches, hold on, let me just make sure, 5 inches. Okay, so one of the most popular feature requests we've had for this tool is for the ability to customize the default lengths. Okay, if it was set to 0, the command's going to default to some multiplier of the conduit diameter to result in the fewest number of errors. But maybe elbow, pipe, and conduit, this would be for all the elbow tools. Let's get a 3-foot length. I'm going to run the bloom command again. Then in that case, I can use my elbow, my branch align. I can use my trim command. And unfortunately, when I trim using Revit, it won't put the conduits in the same way that roll command is. So you see the benefit of using that command. So here I would have to stretch out, trim, delete, and then move and connect. So there's a couple different ways that we can combine the tools in different variations in order to get the same scenario. In this case, what I might do then is just copy this multiple times. I can move and connect, move and connect. And now there's another command that I haven't shown you yet. It's called simply align in 3D. And this takes 2 conduits or 2 pipes or 2 families with connectors, and it simply aligns the second thing to the first. So it doesn't make a connection, but it just sort of gets it in the right place, so that I can use the move and connect command to attach them. Okay. So without using that roll into command, we can still create the same complicated combinations of fittings that we could otherwise. All right. Let's jump over to annotation for a second, because we talk heavily about the tools that are there for speeding up the process of modeling pipe, conduit, and I can show you some duct with time permitting, but we're getting very close to the end. We also understand that for MEP designers, tagging and annotation is a big part of your workflow, and especially for electrical designers, you'll spend more time tagging than you will actually placing fixtures and circuiting. So for that reason, we have a command on BIMrx core called tag select. And the command allows us to build out a schema, or sort of like a, yeah, I guess schema is the best word I can think of, a template for combinations of tags. So for example, if I want to put a light fixture mark ID on the top left. And in fact, just since this is a training webinar, I am going to start from scratch. I'm simply going to add 3 tags that I want for my light fixtures. From a drop-down list, I'm going to select, like I've already specified the category, but I could tag any category that I wanted. If I wanted to do pipes, ducts, air terminals, plumbing fixtures, we could do it. For lighting fixtures, I've got access to all of the tags related to light fixtures. And in this case, I'd like to put a mark ID. Then maybe I'm going to put in the, what do you think, maybe the circuit, and then the switch ID. So we'll do a switch tag. And then I specify their location. So the type mark I want on the top left. The circuit tag, maybe I want on the top right. And then the switch ID, maybe I'm going to put on the bottom right. I can specify their offset relative to the fixture itself, with a positive direction being away, like the X and the Y direction radiates away from the center of your light. But let's test this out. There may be some trial and error. I'm going to select a couple troffer lights, and admittedly, I've already built my tags so that their insertion point is relative to where they would land next to the light fixture. So in this case, we can see that my circuit tag kind of lands a little bit close. So maybe I want that to move a little bit in the X direction. Why don't I just put a, let's see what 2 inches looks like. With the dialog box open, I can use my undo command, and that's okay. It simply undoes the work inside of the model, not the work that I've done inside of my tag select command. I click on the light again, and now that 2-inch offset seemed to help with my circuit tag. And maybe with the can lights, I'm pretty happy with that as well. So I'm just going to undo that, and I'm going to zoom out. And the command allows me now to just basically select everything inside of the view. And it's going to filter out the selection set based on the category that I've got chosen. And then it's going to go and place all of the tags for me. And of course, there may be some families that have custom geometry or hidden geometry inside of them. So for a floor plan, it may not always be perfect, and we might have to go back in and correct some things. However, understanding that, we've got some ability to control how we're tagging. So let me close, let me save my options here. So I'm going to call this fixture tags, July, what's today, the 13th? I'll close the dialog box. And then what I could do is, we've got out of the box commands inside of Revit, which would allow me to select all instances visible in the view. I can use HI as the keyboard shortcut to isolate them. And now I could come in and I could use my tag select command. Select all of the lights. Let them get tagged. I close the dialog box, and HR is the keyboard shortcut to restore hidden elements. Then I can select my can lights. And there may even be a keyboard shortcut to select all instances. Then I can HI. I can go back into my tag select command on the BIMrx core tab of the ribbon. And now we notice that the offsets were a little bit off. I'd like to bring them down in the Y direction. So a negative direction is going to get them closer to the light fixture. A positive direction gets them further away. And we're talking about dimensions in inches in model space. So we're probably, I'm not sure if 3 inches is going to do it, but let's give that a shot. All right, that's not bad. Maybe I'm just going to go -3 for all of them. And it takes a little bit to set up, but if I can tag everything quickly, I think that actually looks really good. So I'm going to undo. I'm going to save this as a preset, lighting fixture tags can. And then I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to select all my can lights. The software is going to place all of my tags. I can close the dialog box and type HR to restore all of the hidden elements. And just like that, like I said, you're going to have multiple different styles of lights, and the same configuration is not going to be appropriate for every family. But nevertheless, the fact that you can take all families of a certain type and isolate them very quickly. Now, speaking of isolation, there's one thing I want to show. I'll take 2 more minutes of your time, and then we'll check the questions. So why don't I check the questions right now? Actually, yeah, so there's a question, will we be able to get a copy of this presentation? The answer is absolutely yes. So it's being recorded, and upon, once the presentation's over, you should all receive an email thanking you for joining, and there'll be a link to the recording, which I think will get posted on YouTube. Okay, so let's come back here for a second. One more thing I wanted to show you was that if I were to come back and select everything, and I'm going to select all of the tags and delete them. BIMrx Core has a command called filter select. And filter select gives us access to all of our view filters, which we can use to select elements. So in other words, I talked about using the tagging command to, I used to select all instances, but a lot of times you're going to have multiple different family types that have the same geometry, right? Like here we've got a recessed light fixture 2 ballast, but if that were a, all right, say it's a 120 volt LED light, here we've got 2 lights with more or less the same geometry, and they should all get tagged very similar, but if I were to right click and select all instances, it only picks up the 1 element. So wouldn't it be great if I could select all light fixtures that came from the same family? Well, BIMrx has a command called filter select, which gives me access to all of the view filters that are in the project. And what I can do is I can add a new filter, and this is going to take me to Revit's filters dialog box. This isn't a custom proprietary window. We are using the view filters as Revit intended them. So I'm going to create a recessed filter. It's going to look for all families of the lighting fixture category. And as a rule, I'm going to search for everything with a family name. And let's see what family names we have. Recessed light fixture. I'm going to find everything that came from that recessed light fixture 2 ballast. Otherwise, I could select things that began with, like I could look for everything that has recessed in the name or everything that has 2 ballast in the name. Well, anyway, that's my filter. And now I can use the filter select command to either select and hide, or select and isolate. Now they're selected, I can go back into my BIMrx Core, tag select, and of course, three things couldn't be tagged. I'm not sure why. The offsets aren't quite right because this was set up for my can lights, but you can see they're a little bit off. What I would just do in this case is undo, Control Z. I'm going to load in the preset, and then I'm going to select all of my recessed lights, and I think we're going to get much better results in this case. There we go. Okay. And I've got a couple things that are on undefined circuits. So now I can close, and all the command did, that filter select, was it ran Revit's select and temporarily isolate. So here, earlier when I typed the HR command, what that was doing was giving me quick access to the icon at the bottom of the screen that looks like sunglasses and clicking on that reset temporary hide isolate for me. All right, so I think we've got 3 minutes to go. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions or if there's a specific scenario you'd like to see. If you do have any, if you look into the GoToMeeting palette on the screen, there's a questions drop down, one of the gray bars towards the bottom of the screen. And if you click on the white drop down next to questions, on the left-hand side of questions, there's a field where you can type something in. Otherwise, if nobody, I'll give it a couple minutes, but if nobody has any questions, then I want to thank you all for your time, and hopefully we gave you a taste for some things about BIMrx or some use cases that maybe you hadn't thought of, or maybe you've been using some of the tools and this might have opened your eyes to some new features. Maybe it gave you a glimpse of some of the things that are coming down the pipe in a month or two. All right. Otherwise, I'm going to give you guys your time back. Thanks again for joining, and hopefully I'll talk to you guys again soon. All right. Have a good day.